And a very good evening, everybody, and welcome to a Lyceum evening coming to you from the Poole Spiritualist Church down on the south coast of the UK. We've got a great couple of guests tonight with us, all the way from lovely Edinburgh, the wonderful Ewan Irvine. Good evening, Ewan.
Thank you. Good evening.
And even further afield, our bestest friend from Sweden, Mr. We laugh now. Mr. Fredrik Haglund. Good evening, Fredrik.
Good evening.
In his very sumptuous lounge with the enormous sofas, which we've already discussed. But anyway, moving on. We're having a get-together tonight because, in case you have not been aware, on the weekend of the 24th to the 27th of May this year, we are having a rally weekend, spiritualism rally weekend down here at Poole Church. Now, we started off 3 years ago where we had a rally day. And the whole idea of the rally is to invite in wonderful exponents of spiritualism from different backgrounds, be it mediumship, healing, philosophy, to share and to talk, to take Q&As and present a day-long series of informational talks. And as I say, we did start this 3 years ago, worked really well. Last year we expanded it slightly because we had mediums over from Ireland, Stevie Trollendown from Scotland, and other people from around the country. So we did an evening demonstration before the actual rally day. And again, that was really well received. So this year we're expanding to 4 days. And that commences on Friday, the 24th of May. And in the evening, there'll be a demonstration taken by Fredrik and Ewan here tonight. Also, Jack and Lola from Denmark and Mark Stone. So that will kick off the proceedings. And then into the weekend, we have 2 workshops. We have an evening social with a fish and chip supper. We also have a series of private readings available from our demonstrators over the weekend, and 2 workshops as well, one on the Saturday and one on the Monday. So Fredrik and Ewan here will be taking our Saturday workshop, which is entitled The Storyteller. So gentlemen, if I can invite you into the room, please, and just talk about this wonderful event coming up where we can all join together. Now, you two, for the benefit of people watching, you're quite used to working together. Is that correct?
Yes,
yep.
We have done a few works together before, yeah.
That's right, because I do remember coming up to the Conan Doyle Centre to see an evening presented by you two. And there's a great energy between you two. You know, we do often see at the moment lots of people doing double dems or triple dems with mediums. It's not just a case of putting 3 mediums and putting them on a platform. There's got to be this rapport and this energetic handshake between the two, and you two most certainly have that. It's a great balance of energy between you, and you presented extremely well. And you're both very gifted tutors, teachers, and mentors as well. So it just seemed right to use all those abilities while you're down with us in Poole to present this workshop. So, Ewan, sir, your thoughts on the workshop, please.
I think that the workshop we're really looking forward to, and Fredrik and I were talking about this morning and what we were going to do. So Fredrik will give some of the information about the workshop and the parts he'll be doing as well. But we are looking at a workshop called The Storyteller. And it really is in our mediumship, how we give that story of someone's life. What do they come through with, and how do we ask for that extra information? And in a way, I kind of say it's almost like if you go to a funeral of somebody and you have that eulogy, that just talks about the person from their birth and what they did and who they were. And that's what we're trying to bring through in mediumship and asking the spirit person for. So that's what we're going to be looking at, and just looking at the depth of our mediumship and teasing out that extra little bit of information. So that's part of it. And the other part later on will be just a little bit about our story of life. So it is what we need from spirit, what we need for our spiritual development. So it's a nice exercise just to really tune into ourselves and connect again, spirit to spirit, and just find how we get to that goal or what we need to do. So that should be very interesting as well. So, and Fredrik will explain some of the rest.
Thank you, Ewan, and thank you, Lawrence. I'm very much looking forward to the workshop as well, and also working alongside you and in the presence of the spirit, of course. But as Ewan said, the topic of the workshop is the storyteller, and the story can be told in so many different ways, because we are all individuals, and we can tell the same story, but depending on how we tell it, it will be a totally different story. And also the beauty of us all coming together is also to learn from one and each of it, of ourselves as well, and also how does the spirit want us to work, because it's unfolding the story and unfolding your spiritual knowledge and understanding of the spiritual work we are doing. So because we are all working in such to the degree where we are staying in our safety box, but is that truly how the spirit world want us to work? Or we can just taking a step back and allowing the spirit world to guide us how they want us to work, how they want us to unfold the story, how they want us to progress in our work. And we will be working on emotions, we will be working on continuing building the story, as Ewan said, from the birth to the going back to the spirit world. And then it's all about uplifting and enjoyment of the workshop, and not to holding anything back. It's equally important for each and everyone to come with an open heart and with an open mind, to be able to understand and progress. And both Ewan and myself are quite comfortable to work with all levels of people. So you don't need to be a beginners, you don't need to be a professional medium, because we are happy to work with all the levels. And we are there to support and help each other.
Wonderful, wonderful. Sounds very exciting. I might book in myself. But it is, isn't it? This is one of the beauties of our work as mediums, to bring that presence through. And so often we see a little bit of what we call the scattergun approach of, oh, they're showing me a pen, and they're showing me, oh, I'm seeing a cup. But when we can really engage and really immerse ourselves with that communicator, even the first image, the pen, can unfold this beautiful story, because nothing is shown, in my opinion, nothing is shown without a good reason. Everything has that story, and it's so wonderful to see now that so many more mediums are engaging with this and really working on deepening that connection, deepening that evidence. And by doing that, we are bringing that presence through to be felt by the sitter, whether it be virtual or in person. But it really does, it deepens our connection, and, as I say, our sitters' connection with the spirit world. But the whole energy of the weekend is a celebration. You know me, I like a party. So it's a true celebration, because you know what bigger truth can we share with people, that there is no death? seriously, it doesn't get any more bigger than that, does it? To bring that evidence over, to bring that comfort through, that healing. So, Fredrik, I know, how did you begin on your pathway to the medium that we see before us today?
Oh gosh, it's a long story.
That's all right, we've got an hour.
It's going back to my childhood, where I was aware of the spirit world and didn't have anyone to speak to. And then from that, I was spending a lot of time by myself, didn't really understood what was going on, and I put it away because it felt strange and I had no explanation of it. And then I had a traffic accident. My mom passed to the spirit world, and my mom was the truly only one who understood myself and my journey. But to protect myself, to not be attracted as a stupid or crazy person, because in Sweden at that time this was not acceptable. People are looking at you in a strange way. It's not as it is today. And then from one thing to another, I had my accident, and I'm still affected of my accident today and eating medication. But I had a big awakening after the accident, and it is like the spirit world become more alive again. And I couldn't continue with my business, my own company. I couldn't continue with my study at the university, so I had to find something else. So it was spending 10 years of personal development without doing anything with it, with the mediumship, not doing anything with the spirit world. I knew the life continues after this, but I had no intention to disturb the spirit world or anything like that. No intention to become a medium or anything. I was just happy to know that the life continues. And then on my computer, there was an association who came up on my screen every time I turned on the computer, and I didn't understood what it was, and I was not interested in what it was. So I pushed it away, and it came back, and it came back, and it came back. And finally, I started to read about it, and it was about mediumship. And there was something written in it that caught my interest. So I actually signed up for a workshop and found it very interesting. And the lady who was running the workshop answered all my questions in the way she was teaching. And then I was caught. So there was no way back from that. So I actually moved to that town, and I'm still living in that town. And from that, I have developed and taking workshops, courses myself, and in different places. And I'm doing a lot of online work today because it's easier due to the accident.
Wonderful. So we got a new tagline for you. It's Fredrik the Reluctant Medium.
It was just a short story, but I mean, this is the best I could do, and without spending all those years in personal development, I wouldn't be where I am today, because it goes hand in hand, and therefore you have to listening to the journey and to the spirit world, how they're guiding and working with you, and there's no need to rush. You will reach where you're meant to go anyway.
Definitely. And Ewan, you have a number of skills in your box.
I don't know about skills, but
I think you're underrating yourself there, sir.
It's funny because I was just thinking I saw my wee dog just pop his head through there, and I think he heard Fredrik's voice, because when Fredrik's here, Fredrik is Benny's Uncle Fredrik.
Do you know what? I have the same with the cat. When she hears Jack's voice, she comes walking. Oh, where is he?
So I go back, and folk ask me that question. I always say, when I was growing up, I did not see dead people, which I think is what people want me to say, if that makes sense. And that wasn't the case. But there was various things I could suddenly feel a bit on edge or something. I wasn't quite sure why, and then something would happen. Things, I don't know, there was an awareness, and I can't quite put my finger on everything, but you know, Sunday school and everything went to, and it just didn't make sense to me, and I had all these questions and everything, and whilst this was going on, I think I was kind of growing up thinking there's something more to all this, there's something more to life. There was, you know, when we finished life and everything here. So, and it was various other things, but what brought me into it was actually quite a simple thing. And like Fredrik was saying here when he was opening up the computer and kept saying that, I think similarly, there's always something where spirit draws us in. You know, there's that little bit. And for me, it was a while after my father died, and my mother went to a spiritualist church with a friend. And she got a couple of messages over time. And then they were having a kind of mini fun type day thing, but they had mini readings. And I went along and I thought, right, I'm going to have a reading. And I decided to be very Mr. Skeptical here, arms crossed. I wasn't giving anything away, straight faced. And she never knew me. She never knew any connection with my mum or anything like that. And we still laugh about it to this day. But I remember saying, well, I've got a man here and his name's John. That's fine. John's a very common name, I'm thinking here. Okay, and this is where we're getting to the whole storyteller thing about going into the deeper information. Because she said, he's pointing to his chest, but I know it's not his heart. Well, my father actually died from breast cancer, which was quite unusual in that time. So, of course, I'm thinking, okay, I'm a little bit more interested here. And then she started telling me there was a number of personal details which linked to my mother, including a couple that I said, no, I would have known about that, absolutely known about that, until I did ask my mother and found they were true. And then a couple of things that she said, which transpired a number of days later. She said, you had an aunt that would have said she was a little bit of a witch. And then you had somebody else on your dad's side of the family done mediumship. And again, I'm saying, no. And I remember asking my mother, and she said, I think you had an aunt that was into tea leaf reading or something. Well, a number of years later, when my aunt died, we were clearing out the house. And right enough, in a wee cubby hole, perfectly hidden, was everything, including something like the 1934 Book of Fortune Telling, which I've still got here. So that cleared that one up. And then we found my father's grandmother read the flames and fire for people. And the final thing she said, which for me was a definite no, she said, and in a number of years' time, she said, you'll be doing this from the platform. And I remember thinking, it's never, ever going to happen. Never, ever. But like Fredrik, something got me to sign up for just a course. It was just a day, and I went along to it, and I think it just, from there, it happened. Again, somehow I think we're drawn into it. But I took it slowly, because we talk about having the development circle and everything, and I think that's really important. So I took it slowly, I did it properly, and I think that's a very, like Fredrik, we both sat in circles. We did it properly, and I think the rest is history.
Wonderful. And you know, this is so common that I just love it, because it shows the intelligence of spirit. You both got the invitation. Now we have free will. So we would have both gone, no. I had it similar here. People kept saying to me, you will be running this church one day. And I was going, no, I'm not. I will never be running a church. Ta-da! But yeah, the spirit world put these things over, but we have got to put that effort in. And this is when, as I say, personal responsibility kicks in. You can say yes, or you can say no. It's entirely up to you. And it's just beautiful the way it unfolds in people. I always say, you know, we get so many opportunities in a lifetime, and you may as well do them, because if you don't do them now, you're going to have to come back and do them again anyway. So you may as well get them away now.
I'm not coming back. I've done this.
Yeah,
this one's the last one.
Fredrik, coming back?
Maybe.
Because
I think I know you said about free will, and I think even if we don't feel we want to do it, and if we are meant to do it, the spirit world will always find a way for us to do it, and put us in another direction, and we will end up where we are meant to be.
Yeah, that's true. As I say, my version of free will is you can do it now or you do it later.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's your choice entirely.
So that's the beauty of free will.
Exactly. But coming back to the rally weekend, you know, I love the history of modern day spiritualism. We're just coming up tomorrow, of course, is Hydesville Day as well as Easter Sunday, where we see what we call the birth of modern spiritual. Could you imagine if we never progressed past knocking? Could you imagine how long a service would have to be when you're giving a message from spirit going? But it just shows, doesn't it, from that very humble beginning, the speed and the evolution of mediumship. And this is, again, a passion of mine that we keep abreast. You know, to me, the only thing that limits mediumship is our minds. Very much so. If we sit there saying spirit can't do that, well, guess what? They're not going to do that. It's as simple as that.
But I guess in those days, and they were tough days, because you could still be considered of either being insane or even a witch. Male, female, child, all could be accused at the time. So we were with that physical phenomena that we had to see it to believe it. But then times move on and we evolve and spirit evolve. And I don't know where we'll be in 100 years. The way things are going, I'm not quite sure any of us will be on this planet in 100 years. But if we are, I wonder what will have changed.
Yeah.
How evolved.
I have thoughts on that I've been writing a paper on physical mediumship. And part of the thinking process is, you know, a question often asked is when spiritualism first erupted, the basis of it was around physical mediumship. The Hydesville Rapids, knocking is a physical form of communication. Then when spiritualism came to the UK and really found a foothold, it was all physical mediums working. And I'm just thinking about the culture and the society of the time. I mean, when we go back to the 1890s, those sort of years, a vast percentage of the population had no education. You know, education was very much a reserve of the wealthy. And if you couldn't afford public school, you didn't get any education. So actually, to me, it just follows suit that Spirit would have gone, you know what? We will show you. We will demonstrate to you that we're here. It wouldn't have been much good writing great big tomes and wonderful books, although many were written, but that wouldn't have reached the vast majority of the public. So we have all these wonderful stories of these physical dems. And again, people today saying, why do we not see that form of mediumship? Because the spirit world's moved on, you know, and we now are in this era of us and others watching tonight of the mental mediumship. where it's coming through the mind, and we communicate, be it face to face in churches or centres, or now online. So it's really fascinating. And that's part of the history and part of our bases. And this is why I look to the rally weekends to celebrate not only what we had, but also what we can have. Because again, we are a progressive movement. We are progressive in our mediumship. And we should never stop searching, looking to improve, looking to adapt, looking to expand upon our mediumship. I've run out of words to say now.
No, but I think the needs of the mediumship who was in the past, that's need is not today. I mean, everything has evolved, progressed, and the need we have today of mediumship is not the need who was in the past. So it has to be the balance of the need of today, and also if we look back to our pioneers and the stories of mediumship at that time. People are more dedicated to develop their mediumship in smaller circles, where they put this evidence forward. It's not in the way they communicate as we do today.
Very true. Very true.
And it was very rare that they had big demonstrations. There was a few mediums who did big demonstration, and they might have done it 2 or 3 times a year, but that's all. It's not in its way it is now.
Yeah. And going back to those heydays where the rallies were first sort of like brought to the public attention, there were rallies at, say, the Albert Hall. And the Albert Hall was full of people from all over the country. There were demonstrations of what we call evidential mediumship. But there were also the talks. There was also the coming together, bringing people from churches up and down, because in that time it was all churches. So all these churches would actually get together in this celebratory atmosphere and celebrate the phenomena of spiritualism, and listen to the most wonderful, gifted demonstrators, to share knowledge, to encourage, and to just bring people, give them that firm foothold to be able to go back out in the world again, being a proud spiritualist. And this is the sort of energy that we look to recreate here. And of course, now with the advent of streaming, that we can not only share that day with everybody who's here physically, but we can also reach further afield. We had last year people watching from Canada, the Americas, over Europe, which was great. I absolutely loved it because it's so different again. You know, I know it's going back a bit in time, but it's bringing that difference in and saying, you know, look, we're more than the message.
And one of the topics on the workshop you and I myself are doing is actually, how does the spirit world want us to work? It's not how we want to work, it's how the spirit world want us to work.
Yeah. Yeah, I was having a conversation today, and I said I was recanting another conversation. I heard to me what is a bit of a worrying sign from a medium. It was I, and I just thought, where's the spirit world in all this? You know,
it's me, myself, and I.
Me, myself, and Irene. Yeah. But it is, isn't it? We forged this partnership.
And I think it's something that it evolves again and changes over the years. And I think Fredrik and yourself will have it's changed so much. And I think that's where the development comes into and taking our time, because I'm still on that path. I'm still learning. Things are changing. And I think that's what I always say to everyone, just spirit will work with you. They meet you halfway, but take our time, because I don't know. I see some of these things out there that say I can make you a medium in 6 months kind of thing. And I think, really? And I always say to folk, no, just, find something that suits. Find that development circle, if you can, in the physical setting, in one of the churches, and just you're working with other folk, and it's very enjoyable as well. But I don't know. I'm just aware of some of these things out there. I think,
Yeah, sadly, I mean, the advent of coming online since 2020 has been great opportunities, but it is everything, with the law of balance. There is the other side of the coin where we see some pretty dubious claims, because it's focusing purely on you as the medium out fronting people, but we as the mediums are on our own spiritual journey. And that is often neglected. It's all about how to present yourself, how to put yourself out there. But what about the time out to actually look at our path, how we're progressing, how we're blending and moving with the spirit world, and our journey, because we too are here on a journey. Part of that journey is to demonstrate the philosophy and the evidence of the spirit world, but also we as spirits are here to progress, and that's not built solely on how many times you serve the public and how many churches or centres or Zooms that you took.
I think that brings two important points, and Fredrik will probably have his as well here, but my two are, it's that self-care, okay, because it is a journey that we're very much on our own. I studied counselling, and we very much talk about self-care, but we don't really speak about the mediumship. And the other part that you mentioned here as well is that, when we do work with spirit, it's like we're waiting for them to come through, And I always say to folk, but we can ask, we can throw questions up there, we can ask, right, what do we do next? Can you give me something a bit different, or go deeper into that information? But we don't kind of ask. And then it's working with spirit in a way to get out the box. And I remember myself, first getting up on the platform and giving a message. And then a few weeks later, you've got time, can you do a second message? I don't do second messages. I just one message. That's it. One message. I don't do so. So it's working with spirit. But Fredrik will have his own examples as well.
Yeah, and it's similar to me. I mean, I'm from Sweden, and we didn't have the same ability here as you have in UK, because here you could attend a workshop, a weekend workshop, and then in the end of the workshop you get an opportunity to stand on the platform. And you were lucky if you did one messages, and when you had progressed more, you were able to do more than one. But it was terrifying. I mean, you were happy when you succeeded the first one, and then it was terrifying to fail the second one. So you stayed in your comfort zone and just did one, and then I had my bigger progression when I went to the Autofinde College.
Yeah. That is a common thing, isn't it? We are terrified of making a mistake. However, why are we scared of that?
Because we don't trust.
Yeah.
No, but why are we scared of making that mistake? Not why might we fall down, but our own psychology. If you get something wrong, you can go back to spirit.
Yeah, but you don't see it in the beginning of your development, because you have so much pressure on yourself.
Well, we should be beating it into the trainees.
The thing is as well, the question everybody always asks, is it me or is it spirit? Is it my mind or is it spirit? And then when they give you something, very often our mind will try and start to change it to fit. Or we think we can't possibly say this. And I always remember one experience I had where I almost got it wrong and never said something, and I learned from it. But I remember the person that passed over, a young lad, was showing me his grave. And round it were all these tins of Diet Coke just sitting there. I remember thinking, I cannot tell his mum that the grave is littered with tins of Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
But I did. And that was the bit of evidence she wanted, because her son was addicted to Coca-Cola.
Right.
Anyone went along, they left a can of Coca-Cola. But no, my mind was coming into play in this.
Yeah, yeah, and that is so common. My story along that line is in a development circle here. One of the students kept saying to somebody, "Oh, they show me salmon." She's going, "No, yeah, it is as a piece of salmon." No, don't get it. And I said, "Are you sure it's salmon?" Well, yeah, they show me this fish. And I said, "So not a salmon?" Well, yeah, no, it's a salmon, isn't it? I said, "No, they're showing you fish." To say, because I knew, say fish. And she went, "Fish." And the woman went, "Yeah, that's my surname." Don't embellish it. Leave it alone. They show you a fish, say a fish. Nice comment here from the lovely Chris Archibald. And just saying, churches in the northeast run courses 6 weeks awareness, and they run 6 months awareness at a minimum to ensure student gets the understanding they require. Yeah. Good on you, Chris, and good on you, all of you doing that. We need good, solid foundation work. We really do. And to get that message over to people, people say to me, "Oh, I want to be a medium." And I go, "Oh, really? You want to give up 50 Sundays a year, travel around all over the place, go put yourself through all the trauma of traveling and the nightmare of being late and getting up there and fear of drying up for a tuppence, carry on." But yeah, that's nice. Oh, we have another message. The lovely Elspeth is travelling all the way from the Hebrides to be with us that weekend.
Oh, way up north, yeah.
Yes.
Stunning scenery up there, absolutely stunning.
It is, isn't it?
Beautiful
when I went
area.
up to Inverness to see Fredrik and Stevie Trolland, I've been up to Edinburgh, which just the minute I get over the border, there must be a heritage there somewhere. It's just like
the Scottish air.
Yeah. But I do. My spirits start to lift and everything. But when I did that other journey from Edinburgh to Inverness, wow, absolutely blew me away. Beautiful. Elspeth, darling, we're looking forward to seeing you too. And hubby. Oh, sorry, I'm being corrected. Shetland.
Oh, even further up north, yeah.
Wow.
Shetland Islands.
It's the other side of Luton, and I'm English. Allow me that one, Elspeth. But yes, just getting back to that topic. When we first start off, we never stop developing, do we?
No. It's equally, even if you're working as a medium, it's equally important to continue to develop, either in workshops or going somewhere for a week of training or something, and never ever give up your own training.
Yeah.
I think, yes, Spirit works with us through the highs and the lows. Yeah. And I think they give us some of the highs, but also allow us to experience the lows. Yeah. It's all a learning journey.
Hang on, I'm getting beaten up here by the Scottish mafia. Good evening, Elaine. So I'm just being told off. I have no idea where the Shetlands is. I'm going to have to look at the map now.
Way up at the very north of Scotland. Think John O'Groats and go further north.
Oh, right. It's sort of like Iceland then, or Greenland or something.
Not quite as far as
I'm going to get murdered in May.
And then we've got the Orkneys further up, and then I think you probably get to Iceland.
Oh, right. Okay. So apologies for my appalling geography, but on my defense, I am English.
Do you know, I think there's a great guy up here who I know, Roddy Martin, and he wrote a book on haunted Scotland. And he talks about everywhere in Scotland, but also the islands as well. And I think it's the Orkneys. I don't think it's the Shetlands, but it's one of the two. I think it's the Orkneys, where the first two houses you kind of encounter have a name each. One's called Hell and one's called Purgatory.
I bet
I
that
don't know why I thought that there, but just when it comes to the Orkneys, I always think of these two houses from the book. It's called Haunted Scotland. It's a great book.
Oh, I bet that makes a great cover photograph for the local tourist board.
And the Shetlands have some great stories about, the witchcraft going back, like a lot of Scotland, but there's quite a lot because it all involves the fishermen and everything at the time, and all the superstitions for the fishermen. So there's some great stories.
There's this beautiful link as well between the Nordic countries and Scotland and Ireland. And this is going back to something like 1600 BC. There was a very prevalent tribe there, which was very male orientated. The ladies stayed at home, they bore children, they did that work, and the men were out front, hunter-gatherers. One lady started sitting under an oak tree and giving visions of where the hunting would be good and when another invading tribe may try and come in. And in one generation, that lady lifted the role of woman from being a subservient role to an equal role. But that spread then from the Nordic countries through Scotland and through Ireland as well, bringing in the tree of life, because wherever they settled, they always had to ensure there was an oak tree for their seer to sit under. And this is that link, and I think it's beautiful because you listen to the folk stories and you can just see that commonality in there as well. It's just like, it's just so cool. So I've stopped being shouted at by the Scottish audience now. Thank you. For my
I think the story of everything is very interested to take on board, especially when you're looking into the Scandinavian countries and Scotland and Ireland, because there is so much similarities. And also, if we go further on to the Vikings and also to the people who lived in the countries from the beginning, it's just so much similarities.
Yeah, and it's beautiful, and it's amazing. Sorry.
Similarly, I remember, this is quite some time ago, I remember it was just sitting in some fields somewhere up north. I can't remember why or where or when. But I remember to have this vision of all these Vikings around me, like loads of them. And I remember just looking at this vision and seeing all these Vikings and thought, oh, lucky me for a start. But second, I remember when we got ancestry DNA done and found that had a little bit of Viking DNA in me going back. So that was...
But again, it's the spirituality side. You know, before we had what we call spiritualism today, that's inbred in all the genetics as well, about honoring the ancestors and celebrating the ancestors and inviting them in. And we can understand that today in our parlance as spiritualists, about we welcome in the ancestors from wherever, be it this lifetime, previous lifetimes, and honor and venerate and bring them forward as well. So it's always just been deep in our genetic makeup there, that this adherence to other than this world. You say about the Vikings, and there's some wonderful stories there in the Vikings about Valhalla and their version of heaven and hell and the nature links and everything, you know, and it's just, beautiful. You can see again, this evolution has run alongside man's evolution. So when we start working in our field as mediums or philosophers or healers, you're just appealing also, you're resonating with that inbred part of our DNA, which says, yeah, this is right, this is true.
And when you, and I'm just thinking up to the present day here in the way, just thinking about the whole evolvement of mediumship, but when we look about science and everything, even science is starting to come round to the possibility that the mind does not create consciousness, but consciousness uses the mind. Consciousness is separate, but it's like a filter through the mind. And you start to look at the studies and everything and think, we really are in a great time going forward because of what's coming up, of what's being found.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We had a beautiful workshop here with David Powell, a healer, and he was talking about that very subject of the mind and consciousness. And yes, scientists now accept that consciousness is not a creation of the mind. But the thing is, sometimes we think either science is trying to disprove us, which I've seen examples of. Also, people are very keen for science to say, yes, life after death exists. But the scientist's job is just to present the evidence. This is the study we did. This is the basis of it. And these are our results. And it's sort of like, you make of it or follow it up with further studies of yourself. But it is encouraging that the scientific community and medical community are actually more engaging now with spiritual and spiritualist practices. So, Fredrik,
yes,
say something.
No, I was just thinking about what Ewan said before about, or it was yourself, about the seer and culture of it. So, I mean, if we go back in time with the seer, you can actually see the mediumship way back in time, long time before we see the part of the modern spiritualism and things like that, because the seer had a big responsibility in all the tribes and wherever they are. And also you have those who worked with the medicine, who could heal people from different kind of issues and different kind of problems. And also, if we go further back with those who was traveling on the ships, there was also people who had the understanding of the life after this and the spirit world, who were able to heal and help people who had difficulties and had problem.
Yep. Very true.
Yeah.
And the seers, of course, had that added incentive. If they got it wrong, they were put to death.
Yeah.
So I don't think we should bring that back for today's meeting.
Yeah, I don't think I really want that. I believe I get most of it right, but the chances of going, I don't know what they'd have done in that day, thrown to the lions or down the pit or the snakes. Or...
I would just be happy to sit under the oak tree and just relaxing. Yeah.
I'll be with you at the oak tree as well then.
Yeah.
I'll bring the coffee and the wine.
Yeah.
Oh, no problem. I'm off on coffee. Oh no. Oh, for goodness sake.
No, but I think if we open up ourselves to see the bigger picture of the mediumship, and if we see where it comes from, we can see the bigger picture without just going to the pioneers of the spiritualism of today, the one we read about. But there is so much more that we are not able to read about and don't find the information about. But if you go to the Indians or the native people of each country, you will find the mediumship and the spirituality in the core groups of it.
Yeah, and I believe when we go into that sort of age, mediumship was more natural and probably a little bit more what the spirit world wanted. That we didn't have to stand up and get validation from people. It was just expanding that awareness. And this is what I encourage people to do, sitting in circle. You don't have to sit in circle just to become a platform medium. You can sit in circle just to have your own awareness. I mean, what's more beautiful than when you're at home at rest or your mind's drifting, just to become aware of the presence of the spirit world around you, just to feel that presence and acknowledge it and be able to work with it without the pressure of the validation, without the pressure of demonstrating publicly wherever or whatever the venue. And that, to me, is one of the greater truths in spiritualism, that if we can invoke that presence into people, imagine the difference it can make.
Yeah.
You know, it's not all about evidence. It's not all about, you know, having other people's validation. It's that drawing close to the spirit world. It's for the inspiration, for the comfort, for the healing, for the presence in our everyday life, not the 90-minute spiritualist. You know, go to church and hello, how are you? And then you walk out the door and then you suddenly turn into this demonic thing.
Only when I'm in the car.
Yes, that's a big trigger. I knew somebody who was so placid, but behind the wheel, oh my goodness.
I think there's something, two separate things there. I think, you know, there is about that meaning and that connection, that comfort. And I remember it was a very pivotal point in my own spiritual journey. And it was when I gave a reading to a lady who was terminally ill and about to pass to the spirit side of life. And part of her was frightened. So it was taking that time and with that evidence and that reassurance, but to play a little bit in a part of this for her was a privilege as well, but it was very pivotal. And really brought home to me the meaning of why we do mediumship. But the other thing I was thinking about as well, completely separate, was where suddenly we hear spirit or spirit help us or whatever. And I remember again, it was just a few years ago, but talking about the car there, and I was on Queensferry Road in Edinburgh here. Now, when I stop the car, I don't usually bring the handbrake up. That's too much work. I don't do that. I just feel the brake. You know, it's minimal work. And I remember I was stopped in traffic, and I remember hearing this voice. I don't know whose voice it was, but clear as day, that said, "Pull the handbrake up now." And it was so forceful. I did it. And this van just smashed into the back of me. And yeah, I was injured. I had a broken sternum and things like that. But if I hadn't pulled the handbrake up, I would have been into the van in front. Yeah. So it's just something I was thinking of there, where spirit, they play different parts.
Yeah.
It's quite a journey.
Before I was really working on my mediumship, I was out walking and something happened. And this voice just said to me, "If you go that way, you will die." And I went, "Oh, okay." And I walked off the other way. And after a couple of minutes, I'm thinking, A, who was that? B, why did I not question it? I didn't engage with it. It was just so simple, matter of fact. But like you say, commanding. It was like, oh, okay, I'll do that. Incredible.
And the other thing, and I think Fredrik, maybe this I know Fredrik well, and I think he might be similar to this. But I think as time goes on that spiritual journey, you listen less to what the head says, the logical, and you listen to what in here says. And even though the logical is saying it's clearly the best decision, if it doesn't feel right, I don't do it. When I listen to the head, I get it wrong. When I listen to in here, I get it right. Yeah. And I think Fredrik's kind of similar, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about listening to what's within you and not your mind. And I had a similar experience like yourself and Lawrence as well. and I was out and walking, and was just told to not go that road, go the other road. They didn't tell me I was going to die if I continued that road, but they told me to take another road. And I mean, I trust the spirit world to 100%, so I wouldn't questioning at all. And then the same as Lawrence, you're wondering who told me, which voice was it, and why do I not hear that voice when I'm sitting home, when I'm sitting with the spirit world in my home or in the circle? Why was it only that point?
Yeah. Wouldn't it be wonderful?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be wonderful?
I mean, it would be amazing to have a two-way of conversation when you're home, to have all your question answered in a good way.
I do have a two-way conversation. I don't hear the response. It's the thought that comes in. And quite often I just sit there and I'll just suddenly start giggling, which is probably lucky that I live on my own, because if I lived with somebody, I would have been committed by now. Because just something, a little errant thought will come in, and it's just funny. But there are also the times when I go, right, that's it, I'm not doing this anymore, you've let me down, blah, 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 and you have your rant and rave, and by the time you get to the end of it, you've realised that actually they didn't let you down, you let yourself down, it's all your fault, so you need to buck up and get on with it. You just think, yes, all right, I've been told.
It's the lessons we learn. I think we've all had these experiences, and just a quick one here, but I remember when I first started out, and it was probably the first few churches that I went to, and I remember going to one church, absolutely brilliant. All the messages were fantastic. And I remember going away thinking, you've done it.
Mm.
Following week, I went to a church, and I wish a hole had just opened beneath me, because it was awful. No one could take anything. I'm sweating, I just want to run away, etc. I mean, it really was awful. And I remember on the way back home, I remember sending that wee message up to Spirit and saying, what went wrong? And a voice as clear as day came back and said, you got too big for your boots, son.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never forgotten that.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of these things I had to learn.
Yeah, I was having difficulty stage, and I said to Spirit, why is this happening? And simply they just said, because you're not progressing your mediumship. And it was spot on. I could not argue it. Well, I could, but I wouldn't have got anywhere. I couldn't deny it. And I thought, yeah, I've just settled here. So get off the chair, get up there and start, learning again. Lovely comment here from Jen Stevenson, going back to a previous conversation, and saying even Plato believed in the soul and the realm of form, like that, the realm of forms. He was dismissed at the time, like we are by the media, as entertainment.
That's so true.
It is.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's been wonderful talking to you both. And as I say, just bring it back in. The wonderful Elspeth, who is coming down from Shetland. All right? Coming from Shetland. First time I've upset a whole island, but never mind. She's coming from Shetland to be with us at the end of May.
See, Spirit sent Fredrik to Scotland for us. We Scotland adopted Fredrik, we always said when he came over here.
It's my second home.
Yeah.
Punishment for something, Ewan?
No.
You love the West Coast, though. There's something about the West Coast of Scotland that Fredrik loves.
Yeah, I mean, I love to reach the top, so therefore I go to Scotland.
Depends which way you hold the map, Fredrik.
True. No, it's a lovely experience. Scotland is always a very welcoming feeling, and the people are very nice and good. So are they in England. So
no, I agree with you. There's something I think in geography of places. I can go to certain places, the Lake District.
Yeah.
First time I got off the train at the Lake District, I was like, "Oh wow, I'm home. This is me. This is great." The same.
If I could have a perfect house, my perfect wee cottage, it would be Lake District and Beatrix Potter's Hilltop House.
Yeah, I know that well. First time I went there, I couldn't understand. The place was full of Chinese, and I'm like, I know it's a long train journey, but where the hell am I? But
I mean, it's the same. It's the same when you're coming to Inverness or Aviemore. It is like you're coming into a story, of an adventure with a story where there is so much to take on board.
Yeah.
You can't really describe the beauty of the scenery.
Exactly, and it just engulfs you. As I say, when I'm on the train, I love leaving Euston on the Scotland train, because I know as the further up I travel up the country, my spirits start to soar and fly. It's just wonderful.
So Fredrik should visit the Shetlands or Orkney.
It's on my bucket list.
I think I might be banned from the Shetland Isles now.
We'll book you a trip to the Orkney. What house would you like? Hell or purgatory?
It's a bit purgatory, shall we?
1 week's accommodation.
Hell is subjective, purgatory is objective. So yeah, let's go to purgatory. Anyway, drifting off the subject.
Exit completely.
Oh, look out, you got an invitation there. Have to get you guys in the northeast. We'd love to, Chris. We would love to.
Yep.
That would be a wonderful invitation. Thank you, sir. But yes, you are bringing that essence, that warmth, that joy, and that knowledge to us here in Poole, in person. Such a good weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's hard work. So no sitting back on your laurels, because also during that weekend, all the demonstrators are available for private sittings. We've also got an evening of trance on Saturday with the lovely Mark Stone. And if you haven't seen Mark with his trance stems, you really are in for a treat, because it's faultless. I don't want to tempt fate, but it is. I've seen a lot of trance, and I always use Mark's trance as the benchmark. So loads going on, loads of opportunities, learn, grow, come together socially, and just celebrate this wonderful philosophy and experience of spiritualism. So looking forward to it. Gents, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Absolutely. Pleasure. Next week, I am in Holland teaching. So the lovely Jack is stepping in. He'll be chairing the Lyceum night alongside Lola and Mark Stone. And they will be talking about their part of the rally weekend and what's coming up, and talking as well about spiritualism, sharing experiences. I do hope everybody at home, if you've heard things that have reinforced what you think, brilliant. If you've heard things that may challenge how you think, brilliant, because this is what debate's all about. It's about talking, sharing, learning and growing together. So in the meantime, thank you very much, everybody. Tomorrow morning, live on Facebook and YouTube, we have our Easter Sunday and Hydesville Day service combined. And that is with Mark Stone. So that'll be streamed live from here. In the evening, which will not be available online, but it is an in-person event, we're having a charity evening in support of the Arthur Findlay College. And that's with Mark Stone, Anne-Marie Hogan, Sarah Deverell, and myself will be the mediums working that night. In the meantime, gentlemen, would you like to say anything as we depart?
I'm looking forward to the whole weekend and meeting up with all the like-minded people. So it will be an amazing weekend.
Yep.
Same here. And a wee reminder to put the clocks forward.
Oh, yes.
And a proper coffee.
And it's all right, proper coffee and capers.
Yeah.
My coffee gets stronger every year. It's like tar now.
Somebody made me a coffee the other day, and my first comment was, "Is there a war on? Is it Wrexham?" No, I have a little list of your likes. I've dropped a hint about shortbread to somebody, Fredrik.
Oh, I forgot about Fred. Yeah, your love for shortbread, Fred.
Yeah. It's a treat. It's the road to the man's heart. Chocolate and shortbread.
Okay. That's
And
fine.
coffee. Or a glass of wine.
Yeah, or whiskey.
And I've got some square sausage on order for you, Ewan. So you
Oh,
can have
that's
a
fine, yeah.
decent breakfast.
Square sausage.
Lawn sausage, isn't it?
Lorne's sausage, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. See, you get looked after here at Poole. Anyway, thank you everybody for joining us, whether you're here live with us tonight or watching in future on catch up. If you want any more details on the rally weekend, just pop over to our website and you will find a breakdown of everything that's going on and access to tickets. And there are still a few tickets with early bird prices on there as well. But in the meantime, have a wonderful night. Don't forget, as thank you, Ewan, we do lose an hour's sleep tonight. It's really not fair. But never mind. Somebody tell my cat, please. So it's good night from me and good night from these wonderful gentlemen.
Night, night. Good
Night,
night.
night.
And good night to the doggy as well.